Hi, Kim.
Hi.
This question, I think, was already asked and answered to a certain extent yesterday, and now you've answered it a little bit here, but it's the question that was voted on the website, and it's what got me here, so I feel like I have to answer it, ask it.
We do have to play a little bit of yesterday right now in this moment. It's true.
Right. So, and pardon me for reading, it'll be better for both of us. But in December of 2007, I received quite a shock to my system. In just a matter of days, by serendipity, I became aware of a new earth, the Oprah webinar, and now Eckhart Tolle TV. After many readings and viewings, I believe I've become quite aware of the difference between ego and being. Since then, I've been happy to dwell in the bliss that Eckhart speaks of, like the monk sitting outside the temple with his mouth hanging open. But I am now at the point, as I feel many others are, that I wonder if I am meant to be doing something with this awareness. I sometimes hear a voice in my head saying that I'm meant to be one of the frequency holders that Eckhart speaks of. And I'm quite happy with that. Other times I hear a voice saying that now that I have become aware, I have a responsibility to share this and help others remember who they really are. My question is, how do I know when the voice in my head is ego and when it's being? I want to know this in assessing my choices for my future path.
Well, how do you know it? What have you observed in yourself between the voice in your head as ego and what is not ego?
I think what I've come to believe since I even developed the question is that the ego voice is something that would not last long. The being voice is something that is more of a feeling, an intuitive feeling, and it feels better. It feels more true. I can't explain it in words exactly. It's just more of an emotion. And not thinking too hard about it. Like you just said, just be here and do this now. And what is meant to be, if I just be still and listen and go with that a little at a time. Yeah. That's what is more being to me.
Yeah. You answered. Yeah. When we begin our spiritual journey and our path, is that one of the biggest things that we have to learn is that spiritual discernment, which means what is the voice of ego and what is the voice that comes from stillness. And we have to learn that within ourselves, because we all have those two voices. And we have to begin to recognize those two voices. But how you can recognize those two voices is the more that we become still and practice stillness is when we can recognize the voice of the ego. Because if we did not have that direct experience of stillness, we wouldn't know what was coming as ego. We would just be the ego. We'd only know the sound of ego. So the more that we have that inner stillness and practice that, then we begin to witness, oh, okay, this is just an egoic thought. It's just thought, just an egoic thought. And coming to that question of what am I supposed to be doing, which yes, we just answered, but it is, you're just supposed to be doing this right now, this moment. Does that mean we can't have any goals? Of course not. We still can plan ahead, but just don't have that firm attachment to it. Be open to the universe for signs, for they're everywhere. Signals for change to happen. I still sometimes ask myself, am I supposed to be teaching? Do I even want to teach? Well, geez, you got an event coming up soon. Well, I guess I do. It's just about just being present. And those are the voices of, when you mention something like how the ego it doesn't last for you, those voices. Actually, for me, I find the opposite. I'm not doubting your experience, because that's your own experience, and everybody has their own experience and their own knowing and their own learning and understanding. But for me, it's been the opposite, where those egoic thoughts, they keep coming back. And they are long-lasting, because they keep on repeating itself. And the things that come from stillness with me, it's almost like they leave no trail, whereas the ego leaves a trail. The words that come out of me, sometimes I don't even know what I've said. It just happens, and then it's gone. And so not until the memory has to kick in order to try to remember, oh, what is it that was just said? But yet at other times, it can be where it lasts a long time. The thoughts that arise from stillness. So there is no right or wrong way. It's what you are experiencing and how you experience it, and what is egoic thoughts that come into your own head. What are the thoughts that arise from stillness? But there is one thing that I believe that comes across for everybody, is when it arises from stillness, is that you do have that inner peace that comes with it. There is a knowing. It's like what you called an intuition. It's more of a knowing. Rather, the egoic thoughts usually have some sort of doubts to it. Doubting yourself, doubting this, doubting that. And the thoughts from stillness of what we're supposed to be doing is there's a calm, there's a peace, there's a rightness to it. You know, there's just a knowing that it's right action, right thoughts, right words. And there's like no attachment to that. It's like it just comes up and it's like, oh, okay, and you let it go. But with the ego, there's a gripping to it. Grabs you. Your body even contracts. One of the things that I often will do for myself is, if there's a decision that I have to make for some reason, and I want to make, the right decision, is that I drop into that stillness and I feel the body, because the body oftentimes does not lie to us. So it's kind of like, okay, if I'm to do a certain thing or go a certain way, how does my body feel? Usually there's an opening, because stillness is an openness, an expansiveness. So it's like, yeah, okay. Whereas if I'm not supposed to be doing a certain thing, there's more of a contraction. There's something in you, in your body, that tends to contract, restrict. If it's not aligned with life, which life is ever flowing, it's an energy that flows continuously, smoothly. It's just like the water being able to go through, whatever obstacles there are. If there's a rock in the way, it goes over it, it goes around it. And it smooths out this rough surfaces. And there's just this flowing. If it's an ego decision that you're making from the ego, there's somehow, it doesn't move. There's a contraction in the body. So feeling your body is really important through this whole thing, because we are this sentient beings where we feel. And this body of ours can be our guide. and trust the body more than you would trust that thinking mind. So if you have a lot of thoughts about a certain decision you have to make, just drop those thoughts and go into the body and feel your way through this in stillness.
Mm-hmm. I think that's what I was, when I'm saying that an ego choice would not last. I think that's the feeling of contraction. You're not with the flow.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel right, where the intuitive, better choice, like you say, has the rhythm to it, and that would feel better.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lightness to it. You know, you just kind of, yeah, okay.
Right.
It's like you're being carried
Exactly.
through it, rather than the ego choice is, I'm doing it.
Right.
You know, the movements are more, you know, kind of stiff. Your body becomes stiff. You know, so a good practice is being able to be in touch with this body more, because we're so in touch with just the thought process, the thinking of it, but we're not in touch with the body. So being in touch with this body more is actually closer to being in touch with stillness. Because you can't think stillness. Stillness is not a concept. We can make it into a concept, just like we've made God into a concept. But it's not a concept. As you said, we know it. How do we know it? Something within every cell of our being knows it to be true. You cannot understand a spiritual teaching, but yet you understand the stillness, and that's what draws us. Sometimes you might fall asleep during a spiritual talk. It doesn't matter. It's not so much the words, it's the stillness that you bask in. And this is the place where we move from. So it's wonderful that you're in this place and you recognize that, because that's saying to me that, you know, you are willing to make those choices now and live your life through the marriage of being still, rather than the marriage to the ego, the mind. And oftentimes it's trial and error. But you're learning through each step of the way in our life. We are learning.
Right.
And we are returning home. And nothing that we can do can be wrong. Even a wrong thing becomes the right thing if we learn through that. And you just love and support yourself through that by returning home each time.
Thank you.